Good evening, everybody. Today the topic is group 17 halogens. So what do we have in the halogen? Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. This we have done in the previous class. What is the general configuration? NS2, NP5, right? So if we talk about the various physical properties, what is the first physical property we usually talk about? We talk about the atomic radii. Atomic radii should increase or decrease down the group. It should increase down the group. What is the second physical property? If I talk about physical state, what is the physical state of fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine? Fluorine exists as gas, chlorine as gas, again liquid and then solid, because down the group van der Waals forces of attraction increases because of the larger size of the atoms. The physical state of any molecule depends on the van der Waals forces of attraction. The greater is the ion or the molecule, greater are the van der Waals forces of attraction, and hence if the forces of attraction are greater, obviously anything would be solid as compared to liquid and then gas. It has nothing to do with sigma and pi bond, just like I asked you in the previous class. You were saying, right, that nitrogen has sigma and pi bond, despite that it is gas. But it has nothing to do, the type of bond doesn't have has nothing to do with the kind of bonds. But while talking about the physical form, what kind of physical form it will exist in, it depends on the van der Waals forces of attraction. Sorry? Yes, greater is the size of these atoms, because iodine I know is greater in size, is bigger in size, and hence its van der Waals attraction of forces would be greater. Greater force of attraction means solids. If less force of attraction due to mediocre size, it will exist as liquid. And it has the smallest size, and hence it will exist as gas, because it has the least amount of van der Waals forces of attraction. Alright. What is the third property? If we talk about the melting point and boiling point, it will increase with the increase in the atomic number. See, that electronegativity factor you will take into account when you are talking about the kind of covalent bonding or ionic bonding, or if you are talking about electron affinity or the oxidizing power. The physical state depends how tightly the molecules are packed. If the size is very much small, this is not a parameter that if the size is small, then the molecule will exist as liquid, solid or gas. I am saying that the physical state, whether it will exist in gas, liquid or solid, I don't know, but I know the fact that the physical state depends upon the forces of attraction. If we have greater forces of attraction, that means it will exist as solid. And van der Waals forces, I know that greater is the size of the atom, greater is the van der Waals force of attraction because of the electronic cloud. Alright. What is the fourth property? Ionization energy. What is the trend for the ionization energy? It will decrease down the group, because increase in the number of shell which is away from the nucleus, and hence the effective nuclear charge will decrease, and hence the ionization will decrease. What about the electron affinity? I know about the electronegativity. First, let me take the electronegativity. I have discussed this in the previous class although. What is the trend for the electronegativity? We know fluorine is more electronegative. Fluorine is more electronegative. In fact, it is the highly electronegative element of the periodic table, and hence the trend is fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. But if we talk about the electron affinity, then what is the trend? Because since fluorine is small in size, it has large number of interelectronic repulsion, due to which its bond energy is very much small, because it has this kind of bonding. This bond distance is very much small because of the interelectronic repulsion, and hence this bond can be easily broken. Alright. Hence the trend, this is the trend for the electronegativity. I am representing electronegativity by this symbol. If I talk about the electron affinity, although fluorine is highly electronegative, but it will have the medium tendency to form, and hence chlorine will have the highest tendency as compared to fluorine, then bromine, then iodine. Rest of the order will remain same based on the electronegativity. What about the oxidizing power? This is the electron affinity. What about the oxidizing power? Oxidizing power will follow the same rule as that of electronegativity. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. Electron affinity follows this order because likewise I have given you the example in the previous class that okay, I want to invite some guests to my house. My intentions are good, but I do not have enough space to let them be seated. So this is the case with the electron affinity, that it, although fluorine is highly electronegative, but it cannot accommodate large number of electrons over it. So the oxidizing power will follow the electronegativity order, but the electron affinity will follow this order, in which fluorine is the defaulter. Due to again it's because of its anomalous behavior, right? What about the bond energy? Bond energy. Again, the bond energy depends on the, so if I talk about fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine, down the group what is happening? Size is increasing and hence the intermolecular attraction forces are decreasing, and hence actually the bond energy should decrease down the group. But I know fluorine has high amount of interelectronic repulsion amongst themselves, and hence fluorine has less amount of bond energy. So this is the trend, in which again fluorine breaks the trend because of its anomalous behavior due to its absence of d orbital, highly electronegative and hence small size, right? Let's talk about the chemical properties. Sorry, can you please repeat? Okay, might be. This is the order. But I don't know the exact amount of bond energy right now. But this is the exact trend that fluorine is basically a defaulter. If I remove fluorine, by the way, then what should be the bond energy bond energy trend? That chlorine should decrease down the group. So maybe this. Okay. What is the first chemical property? If I talk about reactivity, let's talk about reactivity. Reactivity accounts for the bond energy only, right? Anything which has less bond energy will be more reactive. Second is reaction with hydrogen. What would be the probable reaction when a halide will react, when a halogen will react with the water? Suppose H2 plus F2 will form hydrogen halides, right? Similarly, I can write down the reaction with chlorine and bromine, and the probable products would be hydrochloride and hydrogen bromide, right? Except for HF, all these halides exist in the liquid state or gaseous state. We know HF is associated with hydrogen bonding, right? Hydrogen fluoride is associated with hydrogen bonding or not? Yes, hydrogen HF is associated with hydrogen bonding, and hence if hydrogen bonding exists, it will exist as liquid. What about the other hydrogen halides? They will exist as gas, right? So if I talk about the hydrogen halides, it would be HF, HCl, HBr and HI. What should be the trend for the acidic character? And the reducing power and the thermal stability. What should be the order for acidic character? Acidic character means that can easily give away the proton. That means out of these four, which one has the highest probability to easily give away the HI, right? So HI is highly acidic, followed by HBr, then HCl, then HF, right? You can also justify this trend by the electronegativity, because HF is associated with hydrogen bonding, and hence it will be reluctant to give away the hydrogen, right? What about the reducing power? Again, anything which can give away the hydride to let any reducing agent, to let any oxidizing agent to get reduced would be a reducing agent, right? So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, which can easily give away the hydride? Again HI. So the reducing power again follow this order. What about the thermal stability? HF is, I know the bonding is highly stable, highly very strong, and hence HF would be highly stable, then HCl, then HBr, then HI. You can also justify because HI is a weak bond and hence it can easily dissociate. Reducing power to the electron donating. Okay, likewise in the previous class I have told you, depending upon the kind of question you are being asked, you have to justify whether you will be applying the Arrhenius concept or Bronsted-Lowry concept or Lewis acid base concept. So because if we talk about these hydrides, what would you discuss? Lewis acid base concept or Bronsted or Arrhenius? Because what is the what do we call the concept when we talk about the hydrogen donor and hydrogen acceptor, proton donor and proton acceptor? What that concept is called? Acid base. Acid base what? What kind of theory? Bronsted Lowry concept or Lewis acid base concept? What does the Lewis acid base concept say? It can accept a pair of electron or it can donate, because here we do not have the lone pair of electron, we do not have a pair of electron. What we have? We have the concept of hydrogen proton. So we will be talking about the proton donor and acceptor. Anything which can easily give away the proton, I'll say that is a good acid, because here we are not concerned about the kind of pair of electron. So but if I talk about the ammonia, I know it has a lone pair of electron. So in this case I'll be talking about the electron pair donor rather the proton donor and acceptor. It can be justified in both ways because it can easily give away the electron pair, also it can accept H plus and form the ammonium ion, right? Obviously every concept can be applied to any chemical species, but the demand is that species should be present in that. So if I am talking about the proton, then that acid should have the capability to donate the proton, right? The other property is oxides. How do the oxides get formed? How oxides are formed? How oxides are formed? Because I know halogens are highly electronegative than oxygen. So in case of fluorine and oxygen, can we make an oxide of fluorine? Rather, it will form fluoride of oxygen. So what other oxides I can form? So I should leave this fluoride for now. So I'll be talking about the oxides of chlorine, bromine and iodine. What are the various oxides for, what are the possible oxides for chlorine, bromine and iodine? It would be Cl2O, Cl2O7. There are n number of oxides for chlorine, bromine and iodine. But what we are concerned is what kind of physical properties or chemical properties we are interested in is that increase in, again this is a thumb rule, increase in number of oxygen atom will increase the acidic strength, right? Or if I say, if the oxidation state of halogen is greater is the acidic strength. How would you justify these two reasons? Because highly electronegative atom will pull the electron density towards itself and hence will leave the central atom with more oxidation state. If I talk about the oxo acids, what are the various oxo acids you have studied? HClO or HClO2, HClO3, HClO4. What are the various names for these kind of acids? Hypohalous acid. What is the oxidation state of chlorine in this acid? +1. Next is halous acid, then halic acid, followed by perhalic acid. What are the oxidation state? It is +1, +3, +5 and +7. So likewise the kind of acid series we have studied in nitrogen and oxygen family, this is the family of hypohalous acid or oxo acids for the halogen family, right? So if I want to compare the strength out of these acids, out of these oxo acids, which is the most what would be the trend for the acidity? It should increase down. This is not a group, but it should increase. Why it should increase? According to you, that means HClO4 would be highly acidic, then HClO3, then HClO2, followed by HClO, right? You can you can justify this trend by saying that okay, this has the highest number of oxygen atom, which will eventually lead to highest oxidation state of the chlorine, like +7. But you can also justify the same by saying that what are the number of bonds in this case after it loses the proton? It would be ClO4 minus, ClO3 minus, ClO2 minus and ClO minus, right? In this case, in case of 1, 2, 3, 4, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, in number of 1, the number of bonds are greater as compared to 2, as compared to 3, as compared to 4. And we know more is the number of bonds, more is the delocalization. So anything after losing a proton, if it gets stabilized, I would say it will, anything tends to get stabilized easily. I am saying that out of these acids, which one is more acidic? I will say that anything, if any acid out of these loses a proton, and if it has the tendency to get stabilized, it would be highly acidic. Although they all will be stable in their own way, but out of these four, ClO4 minus would be highly stable due to delocalization of this moiety. This moiety will have greater delocalization as compared to this, then this and this. This is the order of stability, and hence the order for acidity would be this. More the number of bonds, more is the delocalization of the charge. This is the charge, right? But what if I want to compare oxo acid of the same of this family, HClO, HBRO, HIO. HIO would be more acidic than HBRO and then HClO. Again, the reason is more electronegative, right? Obviously, atomic size is increasing and hence the bond is getting weakened, and hence it can easily give away that hydrogen. How would you draw this structure? It would be chlorine would be the central atom, and then it would be OH or H and O. It would be this, or I should rather write ClOH, right? Again, if I am saying that this is more electronegative, let's not discuss this in terms of electronegativity. I am saying that out of this bond is weaker, right? Because iodine is larger in size, and hence this overall weakens the kind of bonding, and hence it has the tendency to easily give away the hydrogen or the proton. Chlorine would be more electronegative, right? But chlorine and oxygen have comparable electronegativity. While comparing the various strengths, we have to look for all the parameters simultaneously. You cannot say that okay, this is a single parameter according to which I'll justify the acidic strength. You have to keep in, while I was discussing the oxo acid, all the parameters were same except for the number of oxygen atoms. But here, yes. If okay, it will not easily lose the hydrogen. Iodine is not weaker. Okay, the bond is weak. Okay. I got your question, but here you will also look at the fact that iodine is greater in size. Anything which is smaller in size followed by larger atoms, that bonding would be weak, right? In case of ClOH, these atoms are of comparable size as compared to this kind of species. But also you have to look for the size. I am saying iodine is very much bigger. What is the atomic number of iodine? It is, alright, but iodine is is bigger in size as compared to oxygen and hydrogen. You have to take into account that size factor also. If they are of comparable size, then in that case I would say that the bonding is strong, just like in this case. So if I am saying anything is very much bigger, but okay, although I know this size is bigger and this is smaller, but they have less electronegativity difference, or I would say this is highly electronegative or less electronegative, but I also have to look that size parameter, that okay, anything which is bonded, any small thing which is bonded to a larger thing will have a weaker bond as compared to anything which is which have comparable size. Again I am saying that you have to look for many parameters, not just one parameter. So you can justify this kind of oxo acid on the basis, just like you have discussed the hydrogen halides. This was the trend for hydrogen halide acidity, Hi, HBr and HCl. Hmm. Hmm. I got your question. I'll be justifying that question at the end. Let's finish off this topic today. Let's take reaction of halogen with water. What would be the possible reaction for fluorine plus water? It will form a hydrogen halide and oxygen. You can balance this reaction as 2F2, 2H2O, 4HF and O2. Similarly, chlorine plus water would form HCl and HClO. Only fluorine was the exception. If I talk about bromine plus water, it will form HBr and it will form hydrogen halide and oxo acid, HBr. So why this is breaking the league? Again, due to its anomalous behavior. Yes, oxidation state plays a very important role. Anything which leaves the central atom with the higher oxidation state would tend to be more acidic, because higher oxidation state means it is unstable or not inert pair effect, but anything which has high, if I say about +7, +5, +3 and +1, that means the central atom is devoid of electron density, right? HClO and Hi. HCl and Hi. Hi is stronger acid. Again, you are ignoring the fact that in this case electronegativity difference is small, right? Although, okay, these all are halogen, but this bond is weaker because of the size effect, right? Because in case of iodine, extra number of shells are being added, but the last electron is getting away from the nucleus, and hence the effective nuclear charge is getting decreased. So it has least tendency to hold back the proton, right? Hold back the hydrogen or proton, right? So it can easily give away because the size difference is very much, right? Next reaction with alkalis. It would be fluorine would react with, if I talk about NaOH, it will form NaF. We are not talking about fluorine. NaF, right? And OF2 and H2O. But this is the case for fluorine. What about chlorine? Because in this case we are observing that fluoride has been formed rather the oxide, because I know the electronegativity trend is fluorine, oxygen, then nitrogen, and hence oxygen cannot, fluoride cannot form oxides, but oxygen can form fluorides, right? What should be the trend for any other halogen? It would be NaCl, H2O plus, Cl minus plus OCl minus. It will form a halide. Okay, anything, if I say halogen, that means you have to simply write the atomic form or the molecular form. But if I say halide, that means it's an ionic form, anything minus or plus. So it will form halide and the and this is what do you call this kind of species associated with oxygen? Oxoanion. Oxoanion, right? Cl, it can form the sodium salt. Anything, if I add anything to, if I add any sodium salt to any halide or any anion, it will form sodium salts. Most of the tablets you eat, when doctor prescribe, have you ever noticed that these are all the hydrogen chloride salts of that compound? Have you noticed? Okay. From now onwards, you should notice what is the name of the medicine. All these are the hydrogen salt. Anything, any chloride or the sodium salts. Salts are what? They are solid form. Otherwise, the medicine may exist in the liquid form, but they make tablet out of it by forming their salts, by precipitating out them, by forming salts. I know salts are solids. Okay, this is the usual reaction. This is the way chlorine behaves with alkalis. Similarly, with bromine, it will form bromide plus anion and H2, right? What is the formula for bleaching powder? CaOCl2. This is the bleaching powder. So does halogens have the bleaching action? What is the basis for bleaching action? Release of nascent oxygen or release of anything that oxidizes or anything that get reduced? What should be the basis? Whenever you talk about the bleaching action of bleaching powder, what is the reaction? That CaOCl2 reacts with what? With H2SO4. Okay, let's talk about the bleaching action of chlorine. Chlorine can act as a bleaching agent. What is the reaction? It can react with water to form HCl plus oxygen, nascent oxygen. And this reaction is irreversible, right? This reaction is irreversible. So if I take any colored compound, or say if I take any colored cloth, and this reaction can be used, it will become colorless. This reaction is irreversible. That means this change cannot be undo.
We have HI instead of O, nascent hydrogen instead of oxygen, then it would be reversible.
Next is reaction with, so this was the bleaching action, right? reaction with halogens, sorry, other halides. If I say I have KBr, potassium bromide, it will react with chlorine to form KCl. What do we call this kind of reaction? This is called displacement reaction, because chlorine is more reactive than bromine. So it has displaced bromine and it has substituted itself. You know about the interhalogen compounds? Interhalogen compounds. Interhalogen, what does the name suggest? Interhalogen compounds. When the halogen reacts among themselves, they form interhalogen compounds. So I know that fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, they all are halogens, but they have electronegativity difference among themselves, obviously, but this electronegativity difference is quite small. So hence they will form what kind of products, ionic or covalent? They will form covalent bonds because they have less electronegativity difference. Less electronegativity implies covalent bonds या covalent compounds. So hence interhalogen compounds are called covalent compounds. They are covalent compounds, right? As the electronegativity difference is comparable or small, right? So what kind of interhalogen compounds? Since fluorine is highly electronegative and very small in size, it can form all types of interhalogen compounds, and hence we call them as halogen fluorides, because anything which is more electronegative will form the oxide. If I talk about oxide, that means I know that oxygen is more electronegative than any other element of the periodic table. So since out of these four, fluorine is more electronegative and hence they will form fluorides. Examples are ClF, ClF3, BrF3, then IF3, ICl3. Similarly ClF, BrF. So don't just cram the kind of interhalogen compounds. Then ClF5, BrF5, IF5, and then IF7. Why IF7? Because iodine has maximum oxidation state, also it has d orbitals, and hence it can accommodate small size fluorine atoms around it, because compared to this iodine, fluorine is very small. So I can imagine this bonding as this, that one iodine is surrounded by 7 fluorine. What would be the hybridization of IF7? According to VSEPR theory, just count the number of valence electron. Iodine has 7 valence electron plus the number of bonding atoms are 7 divided by 2. That means it should have 7 bond pair. What is the probable shape when we have 7 bond pairs? Okay, this is the case when we have 6 electron pairs. What about the 7th electron pair? Pentagonal bipyramidal. That means whenever you're discussing the p block elements, you have to take into account both the MOT, VBT, VA, CPR, all the hybridization together. They'll be asking question combining all these factors. These all factors are correlated, obviously. Otherwise, you won't be able to explain the properties why oxygen is paramagnetic, because you have already studied it in molecular orbital theory. So if I talk about the interhalogen compounds, what are the properties of interhalogen compounds? They are highly reactive, because due to the weakness of the covalent bond. Why the covalent bond is weak? Because there is very less electronegativity difference. I am representing electronegativity by this kind of X. Less electronegativity difference. Right? Yes. That means it will have a covalent bond, but I am saying that that covalent bond is also very weak because of the less electron.
It is making covalent bond, then it should be strong. But you are saying that it is very weak.
But what is the basis if I want to, what is the basis of the strength of the bond of the covalent bonding? If all the bonds are covalent, how would I say that this covalent bond is more strong than this covalent bond than this covalent bond? Difference in electronegativity and size of the ions. If difference is more, yes, sort of. But you should also, okay, this cannot be the only parameter, you have to also look for the size. What does the Fezan's rule says? Polarization, that greater should be the size of the anion or cation? Cation. Smaller size of the cation. In that case, the more is the covalent character. So this is the same basis for the interhalogen compound. Okay, we'll discuss some interhalogen compounds in detail. Also, they are strong oxidizing agent. Why they are strong oxidizing agent? You can imagine this kind of compound as Cl2 or F2. You can imagine. Can you imagine this chlorine fluoride as Cl2 molecule or F2 molecule? Only the difference is you have replaced one atom with another halogen, basically. Right? So all these halogens are strong oxidizing agent. Similarly, the interhalogen compounds, since they are very unstable, they are very reactive, they also will show the oxidizing power just like their counterparts of the pure halogens show. जैसे Cl2, F2, Br2 ये सब दिखाते हैं ना oxidizing power. Similarly, interhalogen compounds will also show the oxidizing behavior. All the interhalogen compounds will show all the properties shown by the conventional halogens, most of the, right? Yes, as compared to pure halogens, they are unstable as compared to them, right? And hence they are more reactive. And then they are covalent, obviously, right? Next property of halogens is the formation of, just like they form interhalogen compounds, they also have the tendency to form polyhalides. That means more than 2 atoms of halogen can combine to give polyhalides. Polyhalides means anything greater than 2, I'll say as polyhalide. So that means if I let Ki react with I2 to form Ki will form K plus plus I3 minus, right? So this is a polyhalide. Anything greater than its usual molecular form will form polyhalide, right? Next property is pseudo-halogen. Pseudo means fake, false, right? So pseudo-halogen means that there are some anions which show the property like that of halogens, right? They are called pseudo-halogen. So if I say, if I have Cn minus or SCN minus, they will show properties like chloride, chlorine or bromine or iodine depending on the number of the valence electron. If I count the number of valence electron, what are the number of valence electron or the total number of electron? These kind of species will be isoelectronic with the usual halogen atoms, right? What is the total number of electron in this case? 6 plus 7, then you have to count this also, 14, right? In this case it is, you have to add 16 to it, 30. So around this will match the chlorine, chloride, and this will match around, not bromine, but they will also match with the usual, they will also, these kind of anions will show the property as that of halogens, and hence they are named as pseudo halogen, that they behave like halogen but they are not actually halogens. The probable reason should be that they are isoelectronic.
So every species which is isoelectronic.
Not, you will not say that every species, but there are some, it has been observed that there are some species which behaves as halogens, but they were not actually halogens.
Why they are just acting like halogens?
Why they are acting like halogens? See, the probable reason only could be the isoelectronic. But you cannot just generalize that all the isoelectronic species will behave like that, right? So they'll form CN2 if they dimerize and SCN2. Obviously anything cannot exist as just cation and anion, it has to exist in the stable form, stable molecular form. What is the another property of use of halogens? They are used in freons. You know about freons? Chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, right? CFCs are used in refrigerator, air conditioners, deodorants, right? So these are the usual freons, CCl2F2, CCl2, FCClF2. They are named as freon 11 based on the number of, they have some kind of name convention according to which they are named, but they are used in, but I am saying that halogens are being used in freons. Freons are the chlorofluorocarbons, right? So what is the anomalous behavior of fluorine? Small size, high electronegativity, and absence of d orbitals, right? So you can justify n number of facts using this property of fluorine, these properties of fluorine, right? So basically what are the consequences of these anomalous behavior of fluorine? Hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonding is one consequence. Hydrogen bonding. These are the consequences of small size of fluorine. Then low bond dissociation energy. Not exist as gas. Okay, you can say it exists as gas because it's a small size. In fact, all the first element of all the p block element show this kind of behavior. So this would be the reason. And nature of compound is they'll form ionic compounds always, right? And what about the oxidation state? It will show what kind of oxidation state? -1, -2, -3, +1, +2, +3. Its only possible oxidation state is -1. In fact, iodine, down the group what happens? The number of valence chains are being increased. So you should imagine that iodine should also be a non-metal. But actually it behaves as a, sometimes it behaves as a metal, and in fact it rather accepting an electron, it can also donate electrons, or it can donate 7 electron, 5 electron, 2 electron, anything. So down the group the +1 plus oxidation state increases, but in case of fluorine only -1 oxidation state exists. Atomic size increasing, and hence also the electronegativity is decreasing, and hence it is behaving more like a metal, because metal has the tendency to give away the electron, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Because obviously down the group size increases, and hence the effective nuclear charge is getting decreased, right? I know fluorine is the highest electronegative element of the periodic table, and hence anything except for oxygen and nitrogen, most of the compound of fluorine will be ionic, obviously because the electronegative difference would be very much high. So we can start with group 18. What are the various elements in the group 18? Helium, neon, argon, krypton and radon. Rn. Right? What is the general electronic configuration? It is Ns2Np6. That means it follows the octet rule. All the shells are completely filled except for the helium, it has 2 electrons. Ns2, 1s2, right? So what is the molecular form? Does they exist as molecules?
Yes.
How? How can it form a molecule? Because already its octet is completely filled.
Ma'am, but we see Xe, the Xe and last compound, it used to form compound.
It can form compounds. Okay, if I talk about the Xe, okay, what is the electronic configuration? That all these shells are completely filled. Why I am saying that only xenon is able to form compounds, rather these compounds, only out of these compounds only xenon is able to form compounds? Because of its larger size, it can easily, okay, it has less effective nuclear charge. That means it has the tendency that, okay, I can excite these electrons according to my requirement, and then using the hybridization concept I can say that, okay, I have let this electron unpaired, and if I need more of other elements, I'll excite another electron. So basis on the kind of compound I need, I'll give away more amount of energy. Obviously noble gases have highest amount of ionization energy, because to break the octet you have to give high amount of ionization energy. So if I want to form large number of ligands around it. That means I have to excite more number of electrons. Exciting more number of electron means I have to give more energy to the molecule, to the atom. And then using the hybridization concept, I can show, okay, that this is the kind of compound form, right? You should obviously consider the ionization energy. Basis on the ionization energy, you will give the energy, right? So I'm sure you are not interested in who discovered helium or who discovered oxygen. What did Cavendish do? Cavendish discovered what? He proved that air consists of, what are the components of air? It is 70% nitrogen, then okay, it's 79% nitrogen and 20% oxygen, and rest 1% consist of other gases, which consist of noble gases also, other gases. So we are interested in this part when we are talking about group 18 elements, obviously. You know, deep sea divers use this combination in their oxygen cylinders. They use this combination when they go deep into the sea. Why they do not fill the normal air, or why they do not use the oxygen, pure oxygen? Because if they fill their cylinders, oxygen cylinders, with the pure air, because normal air will comprise of all these gases, but they use only helium and oxygen, because when they go deep down in the sea, the nitrogen gets dissolved in the blood of the diver, which can cause nitrogen narcosis. That means they'll have some dizziness, बेहोशी हो जाएगी उन्हें अगर वो blood में dissolve हो गया तो, because down the sea क्या होता है, pressure is high, and hence the solubility of nitrogen would be very much high, and hence they use only this combination, right? Obviously in fact the percentage is 20% helium and 80% oxygen, right? So let's talk about compounds of xenon. Obviously all other elements of this group have high ionization energy, and hence they are reluctant to form any kind of covalent compounds. Only out of these, only xenon is the one which form covalent compounds, right? So they can easily form fluorides, right? It would be, what would be the probable products? XeF2, then XeF4, then XeF6, depending upon the various experimental conditions. Right? They can easily be hydrolyzed. What is the hydrolysis reaction? When anything reacts with water, if the water gets break into hydroxyl and proton, it is called hydrolysis reaction. What would be the hydrolysis reaction for this? It will form xenon plus XeO3 plus F2 plus 6HF. You don't have to cram these reactions, just understand the concept behind it, right? Similarly, XeF6 plus 3H2O, then XeO3, then 6HF. So you can always write the possible products with the water, right? What is the use of helium? Have you ever heard of any other use of helium? You know, air balloons are filled with helium gas. Why not hydrogen? Why helium, not hydrogen or fluorine or chlorine? Because hydrogen and helium are very light gases, right? So then why not filling the air balloons with hydrogen? Why to fill with helium? Hydrogen is in fact explosive, and hence air balloons are filled with helium. So first use is air balloons, right? Second use is they are used for maintaining low temperature because they are very cool gases. Also, have you ever heard of use of helium in nuclear reactors? What was the coolant used in the nuclear reactors? You have studied about the radioactivity or radioactive. Nuclear reactor you have studied? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, they are used in atomic reactors to maintain low temperature. What happens in the nuclear reactor or atomic reactor? The radioactive compound is burned to produce energy, but during that process energy is released obviously, but you have to maintain this, you have to maintain that temperature. So you have to keep on cooling the reactor. You are burning the fuel, obviously you are burning the radioactive compound, but you have to also cool down the tubes so that it does not get explode, right? So these are some uses of helium basically. Next we have clathrate compounds. You know what are clathrate compounds? You know about zeolites. What are zeolites? They are the aluminosilicate compounds. What are the uses of zeolites? They are used as, okay, although clathrates compounds has nothing to do with zeolites for now, but what are zeolites? They are used as catalyst. What other factors? They are used in purification of water. Why they are used in purification of water? Basically, what are zeolites? These are the compounds of aluminium and silicon in which there are large number of cavities are there. So what happens? These cavities are capable of holding any ion. If I say that zeolites are used for purification of water, that means they can easily remove the metal ions from the water. What are the metal ions present in the water? Calcium, magnesium. So that means zeolite can trap these metal ions into their cavity, and hence water gets purified, right? So what are basically clathrate compounds? Why we are talking about clathrate compounds? That these noble gases can easily fit into these kind of clathrates, right? These kind of cavities, noble gases are able to fit in these kinds of cavities, and they are able to form what we call as clathrate compounds. Zeolite is an example of clathrate, right? What other kind of clathrate we have? You can have phenol type of clathrate. That means, okay, zeolite I know that it is purely inorganic in nature, right? Interstitial voids, right? Will remain unreacted because I have chosen the kind of this kind of structure based on the fact that the kind of ion I am interested in should not react with that particular metal ion, right? This is purely inorganic in nature, right? Aluminium, silicon, this does not comprise of any carbon, right? The second kind of clathrate is phenol, because it is completely organic in nature, right? So how would you say, have you ever seen phenol in the lab? Phenol is liquid in form, but when it crystallizes, it will form a cavity like structure in which these noble gases can fit in, right? What other kind of clathrate? We have water. Water also get crystallized in the form of ice. Again, noble gases can fit into those cavities. So water is an example of inorganic plus organic sort of example, clathrate, right? So what are the various gases? They are helium, neon, argon, krypton and xenon. These gases are very small in size. So when we talk about the clathrate compounds, I cannot say that I can separate these gases using clathrate compounds, because the size of these gases is very small and hence they do not fit into the cavities. Because if I want any clathrate compound, the size of the cavity should match with the size of the ion or the element, right? But these three noble gases are very small in size and hence they slip out and they do not get fit into clathrates and hence they do not form clathrate compounds, right? Question? Any question? Okay. So I can if I'm given a mixture of these gases and if somebody asks me, okay, separate these gases, so what I'll do, I'll take a clathrate and pass these gases over the clathrate, out of which these will form the clathrate compounds and these will not. It has nothing to do with the attraction. It will just fit on the basis of their size. Okay, what do you do when you chai chante ho ghar mein? So is there any attraction between the sieve and the chai patti? No, but depending on the size, they get fit, right? So if you want to discuss the shapes of various compounds, let's discuss XeF2. This you have already studied in VSEPR theory, but this is also a part of p block elements. What should be the shape? It is actually what are the number of valence electrons? 8 plus 2 divided by 2. These are 5. It should have ideally trigonal bipyramidal shape and hence it should look like this, right? It is linear. What is the kind of hybridization? sp3d. So similarly you can justify various shapes of the molecules. Similarly you can justify XeF4. What should be the shape? It is square planar, because two lone pairs would be accommodated at the axial position, right? So let's discuss some important, although all questions are important, but let's discuss some MCQs type of question. तो मेरे को ना पॉइंटर चाहिए होगा, मतलब मेरे को स्लाइड आगे करनी है, ऐसे तो इन्हें आंसर पता चल जाएंगे. Okay, you know about the silicates, various silicates. You know the answers already now. But you know the kind of bonding that exists in three-dimensional silicates, sheet silicates, pyrosilicates and linear chain silicates. So depending on the number of oxygen atoms which are being shared, you can classify the silicate. So what is the question? Name the type of structure of silicate in which one oxygen atom is shared. These are pyrosilicates. So, you know the structure of pyrosilicate? You have already done the carbon family, right? You are done with the carbon family. Very bad. So this is the way pyrosilicate looks like. Only one oxygen atom is being shared. So another unit would be this. These are 4 oxygen atoms, and then this dot represents silicon. So these are the basic structure of silicates. You have already studied carbon family, right? So you have to make a revision out of it to complete this worksheet. Otherwise you will not be able to do it, right? So should I proceed with the worksheet or not? Right? Okay, second question says, which of the following is present as active ingredient in bleaching powder? Obviously I know COCl2. Okay, this has been, this is the, right? This is already marked. Pointer nahi hai. So next. CaOCl2, it should be COCl2, right? Which of the following is least likely to behave as Lewis base? OH minus, obviously it has lone pair of electron, it can easily give it again H2O. Oxygen has lone pair of electron, ammonia we know, but what about BF3? We know it is highly electron deficient compound, right? And hence it will not behave as Lewis base, but it will behave as Lewis acid. BF3, again it is covalent. You have already done the boron family as well, right? You know BH3 is also electron deficient, it forms diborane B2H6. Again, despite it forms diborane, it is electron deficient. Why it is electron deficient? You need to revise a lot, right? Among the following, which is the strongest oxidizing agent? Again, okay, this is wrongly ticked. Fluorine is the answer, because oxidizing power depends on the electronegativity, electron affinity. In that case, in case of electron affinity, fluorine breaks the hierarchy, right? Don't get confused. In which of these following central atom is sp2 hybridized? Yes, in case of oxidizing agent, right? When I am talking about inviting number of electrons to myself, in that case I do not have the required space to accommodate those electrons, and hence in that case, in case of electron affinity, I'll talk about the reducing power. Gaining of electron is similar to the electron affinity, right? In which of the following central atom is sp2 hybridized? Again, you can find out the hybridization. Can you find the hybridization, type of hybridization? This is the part of VSEPR theory, and these all VSEPR theory etc. are the part of p block elements, right? Right? Next. In which of the following arrangement the given sequence is not according to the property indicated against it? Okay, I know this is the acidic strength. Increasing pKa value means dissociation constant. More is the dissociation constant, more is the pH. Easily dissociating means easily giving away the H plus ion. So this again, this trend is correct for B and C. For increasing acidic strength, NH3, PH3, ammonia, phosphine, ASH3, SBH3, this is also correct. But this is actually wrong. You are getting all the answers on the board, right? Okay, the first part is increasing oxidizing power. This is wrongly placed. What is the correct order for oxidizing power? Right. Okay. Next question is the correct order of decreasing ionic radii among the following species are. I know sulfur has number of, what are the number of electron for sulfur? 16, 16, then 17, then 19, 19 followed by 20. So it has already it has taken 2 electron, it has taken 1 electron, it has donated 1 electron, and it has donated 2 electrons. So in case of, if I talk about the cations, so after donating the electron, the effective nuclear charge is increased. That means the electrons will be packed more tightly, will be held by nucleus more tightly, right? So the correct order for decreasing ionic strength would be sulfide followed by chloride, then potassium, then the calcium, right? Which of the following is the correct order of Lewis strength? Third option, as simple as that, right? Okay, these are the subscript BBr3 and BCl3, right? This is the correct order of Lewis acid strength. What is the justification for Lewis acid strength of this thing? Because of electronegativity. Sure? This is the probable reason, obviously, because the bonding is weak, right? Next question is, which of the following is the correct order of increasing electron gain enthalpy? The answer is C, obviously, but why? Why the answer is C? Can anybody justify? Right. Obviously. Then chlorine has the, out of these 4 atoms, chlorine is bigger in size and hence it can accommodate electron. Although obviously it is highly electronegative, its electronegativity is comparable to oxygen, but it can easily accommodate oxygen. Again, it also cannot accommodate electron due to its small size, right? So this is the trend. Next, the correct order of increasing bond angle is back. Hmm. So it can accommodate electron over itself, right? What you are trying to say that chlorine has the big size, okay, it has enough electronegativity to gain electron, so it should has the highest tendency to accept the electron. So this is the answer, chlorine, right? Right? Increasing bond angle, always remember more number of lone pair means less bond angle, because lone pair bond pair repulsion, right? So this is the trend. You should know the structure of Cl2O, ClO2 and ClO2, right? Okay, there's some typing error. Okay, this is Cl2O, ClO2 minus and ClO2. There's one anion of ClO2. So first you should draw the structure and look for the number of lone pairs, right? Next question is oxidation state of phosphorus in H2, H4P2O5, H4P2O6, H4P2O7. You have to calculate the correct oxidation state. So basically you are actually taking a glance of it rather than calculating everything. You are getting spoon fed, right? So next part. Which of the following is a peroxide? What is the feature of peroxide? It should have an oxygen-oxygen linkage with a -1 oxidation state. So in case of BaO2, the structure is like this, right? So hence only barium peroxide is a peroxide, right? Which of the following is a polar molecule? So you should know the hybridization using the VSEPR theory. SF4 is basically polar because of the presence of lone pairs, 2 lone pairs, right? Which of the following contains no pi bond? This is very much simple. For polar molecule, it should have what is the other basis for justifying a polar molecule? It should have a dipole. When do we have a dipole? Difference in electronegativity. Okay, if I calculate the hybridization of each, if I draw actually the structure of these 4 molecules, I'll be able to correlate why there are the more number of lone pair of electron, that means the more number of electron density on one side of atom rather than the other side of atom which has bond pair. Bond pair does not mean that you have a electron density on one side. When you have a lone pair, that means a more amount of electron density is concentrated on the central atom, that means more amount of dipole moment, right? Which of the following contains no pi bond? Obviously H2O. Next, which of the following is electron deficient? I have already told you BH3. In fact, even when it forms diborane, it will remain electron deficient. For that, you should know the anomalous behavior of boron. Again, the small size of boron is responsible for this feature of boron compounds. Which of the following is least likely to behave as Lewis base? Lewis base means that can easily give away the pair of electrons. Already if BF3 is electron deficient, obviously it cannot give away the electron density, right? XeF2 is isostructural with, can you calculate, 8 isostructural, not isoelectronic. They should have the same geometry. So if I look for XeF2, its shape should be linear. Okay, ideal shape should be pentagonal bipyramidal, but if I place fluorine on the axial position, I have to place the lone pair on the equatorial position, but the overall shape will depend on the bond pairs rather than the lone pairs. So that molecule will be linear. Its ideal shape should be trigonal bipyramidal, but it exists as linear molecule. So if I calculate the hybridization and draw the structure for other molecules, I'll be able to figure out that only ICl2, that means interhalogen compound, is linear, because iodine has 7 plus 2 plus 1, because minus charge you will calculate in the VSEPR theory. So basically 5 bond pairs, but we have only 2 atoms to accommodate, and hence again it is linear in shape. Pentagonal bipyramidal, right? Basically, you have to draw a pentagon, 5 to accommodate in the equatorial position and then 2 in the axial position, right? Which of the following is paramagnetic? O2 negative, unpaired electron. Again, this uses the MOT, molecular orbital theory. Which of the following is similar to graphene? Boron nitride is similar to graphite because it has a layer structure. This topic I have taught you, and I have already told you that only boron nitride has the structure similar to graphite. So you have to do a lot of revision, right? Which is the strongest acid in the following? Okay, can you justify? More number of oxygen, right? But also H2SO4 has the same number of oxygen. How would you account for it now? What is the oxidation state of sulfur and chlorine? Sulfur has the oxidation state of +6. What is the oxidation state of chlorine? +7. So you have to take more oxidation state of the central atom, more is the acidic character. So you have to take into account 2 factors, right? Next, roasting of sulfides gives gas X. Okay, suppose I randomly take any sulfide, say sodium sulfide, any sulfide, right, Na2S. If I roast it, that means I am burning it in oxygen. It is this is a colorless gas with choking smell of burnt sulfur. That means sulfur is getting produced, or any sulfur compound, say like sulfur trioxide or sulfur dioxide, is getting formed as a result and causes great damage to respiratory organs as a result of acid rain. Again, the answer is SO2, sulfur dioxide, right? Because sulfur dioxide acts as reducing as well as oxidizing agent, while sulfur trioxide acts as act as reducing agent, right? Oxidizing agent. Next question is, which of the following has the maximum dipole moment? Because CH4 tetrahedral molecule, again NF3, in case of NF3 the dipole moment get cancelled out quite a lot. In CO2 it is 0 and the rest is ammonia, right? Which is the correct order of acidity in aqueous solution? Okay, this is not marked. So tell me, what should be the order of acidity? It should be A, B, C or D. Down the group what happens? Acidity increases. So what is the correct option? D, right? So D is the correct option. Which of the following orders of ionic radii is correctly represented? Hydride, hydrogen and proton. How would you justify this trend? Okay, parent atom, if I compare to parent atom, an ion should have a greater size then, but cation should have a less size. So this order is justified. What about the other option? You are not looking at the other option, you are just looking at the answers because they are already marked. These answers can be wrong. So this is your test, how well you will perform in the competitive exams. This order is actually wrongly typed. H plus H should come before the H plus, obviously. While when hydrogen gives away the electron, effective nuclear charge will increase. Although it will be left with no electron, but overall the size would decrease. Next. The species having bond order different from that in CO. What is the bond order in CO? Yes. Sure, 3 or 2 or 1 or 5 or 4. What should be the bond order? It is 3, okay. So you have to look for the bond order in other species also. This is N2, diatomic N2, right? Among the following, the paramagnetic compound is, why? Unpaired electron. How? How would you justify these kind of compounds? I want the justification. Answers are marked, but you should know the justification, because you would be encountering assertion reason kind of questions also in AIIMS, entrance exam, right? In IIT as well, right? You would also be appearing for IIT. Okay, just purely PMT, purely medical. Okay, but there can be assertion reason type questions. Purely IIT, very nice. So this is the parameter I would be judging you on. Okay, among the following, the paramagnetic compound is CO2. Why? Can you justify? I want the answer in the next class, because you have to do a lot of revision. Completion of one topic doesn't mean that you have to forget the earlier topic and you have to proceed with another topic. So just keep on revision, keep doing revision, right? The percentage of p character in the orbitals forming pp bonds in p4 is 75%. When do we call that it is 75%? What does it mean? What is the kind of hybridization? sp3. So sp3 means anything which has single bond basically will have sp3 hybridization, 2 bonds, sp2, if 3 bonds then sp hybridization, as simple as that, right? Argon is used in welding. Sorry, R is used in welding because of its low reactivity with metals. Okay. The structure of XeO3 is 8 plus 3. Will you add 3 to it according to VSEPR theory? If I want to find out the shape of XeO3, how would you find? You will take the valence electrons of the central atom and you will add the number of atoms which are singly bonded. So because I know oxygen would be doubly bonded to xenon, and hence I will not take its contribution, I will simply take 8 electrons divided by 2, it would be 4. So ideally its shape should be tetrahedral or square planar, but what is the shape? Pyramidal, because it has, because oxygen is doubly bonded here. And how would I know that oxygen is doubly bonded or singly bonded? If there is any H present in the molecule, then I'll take that H as OH. And rest of the oxygen are doubly bonded. Usually this is the case for the oxygen. Oxygen has the valency of 2 minus, right? Minus 2. Right? All the oxygen are doubly bonded. Right? Okay, next question goes to you. XeF4 and XeF6 are expected to be. This question is not marked and hence I want the answer from you. They are oxidizing, reducing, unreactive or strongly basic. Sure? Why you have to justify why it is oxidizing or why it is reducing or both or unreactive. They can easily lose electron. Really? They are already lose the electron, only then they have formed these kind of compounds. They have already break their noble gas configuration to form such compound. What could be the other reason that these kinds of compound are expected to show what kind of behavior? Strongly basic. Why? You have to justify everything. Why not oxidizing? Why reducing? So I want the answer in the next class. This worksheet would be given to you and I want the justification for each and every question rather than taking the answers directly. Right? I was supposed to show the question to you and mark the answers later on using the pointer, but since we are short of any pointer, so you already know the answers by the way, but these were all right. Uska answer you will find, right? Because if you have studied all the p block elements by this time now, you should have known what is the basis for reducing or oxidizing or basic character or unreactive, right? Right? Right. Okay, next question is increasing order of atomic radii of the group 13 elements is, obviously it increases down the group. The crystalline structure of borax, you know the structure of borax. Why aluminium is showing discrepancy in the trend? Down the group inert pair effect is visible or not? Because inert pair effect is reflected down the group. So what should be the trend for atomic radii? Atomic radii should always increase down the group, right? First, A option is correct. Yes, because down the group size increases because addition of new valence shell, right?
second option is correct, क्योंकि ये exception होता है ना,
Why exception?
क्योंकि इसमें कुछ acid d orbital acid
So what was the topic for today? It was the revision of P block elements. So I think you were supposed to have some revision from home, I guess. You know the structure of borax? What is the structure of borax? In the boron family, I taught you the structure of borax. B4O5 OH5 3 minus. So what is the use of borax? I want the answer from you because some answers are wrongly ticked. It should be A, right? Obviously. Inert pair, when we talk about the inert pair effect, we talk about the oxidation state, not about the ionic radii or atomic radii. Only in the yes, down the group. But out of these options, if I talk about the atomic radii, what should be the correct option? A, B, C, D. Because down the group, the tendency of s orbital electron to take part into bonding decreases. That means only p orbitals will take part in the bonding. That means, so you should know the inference why we are talking about the inert pair effect. What is the consequence of inert pair effect on the atomic radii or the oxidation state? Lower oxidation state becomes stable, obviously. And what is the effect of inert pair effect on the atomic size? It does not increases that much, but it gets increased. It gets increased, but that increase is not great enough to be observed in the trend. The crystalline structure of borax has. For that you should know the molecular formula of borax, right? And you should know the structure of borax, and for that you need to revise. Again, see, there is no use of doing such revision if you have not revised these various families. This is basically, this worksheet is the crux of all the previous year entrance exam question. So if you are through with the P block element, you should be able to solve this worksheet. Only then you will be able to assess yourself, right? 31st का first option मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ. I want the correct option from you because I want you to tell me the effect of inert pair on the atomic radii. Obviously, it is very much clear. I know the effect of inert pair on the oxidation state, but I want the effect from you. So should I proceed with other questions or should I stop here? The compound with two lone pairs of electron on the central atom is. So see, there can be some question which have multiple answers, more than one answers. So unless the question paper says that each question has one answer, but you should know if you are doing it right. Because there are some question which says what are the correct option, A, B, both A and B, or none of the above, right? So you have to look for the lone pairs, and again you have to use it VSEPR theory, right? Which of the following reaction sequence in aqueous solution, in the following reaction sequence in aqueous solution, the species X, Y, Z respectively are? This is reaction for the oxygen family. What is Ag2S2O3 called? What is the species S2O3 2 minus called? Thiosulfate. Thiosulfate means having the thio linkages, that means SS bond, right? So you should be knowing, depending on the kind of reaction condition you are given, you should know the kind of product that will be formed. Alright, I think we should stop here. There is no use of continuing doing questions till 50. Right, you will get this worksheet for your practice. but for now I think you should have a revision and keep on practicing lot more questions, right? So let's finish off this topic of p block elements. So if you have any doubt, you can ask about the p block elements, about any concept of p block element. Cl, ClO, HClO and HBRO or HIO. Why HIO is more acidic? Why this oxo acid HIO is more acidic than HBRO than HClO? Okay, what is the basis for acidity? Oxidation state, or the number of oxygen atom. So ये दोनों तो यहाँ पर से रीजन गए. तीसरा क्या हो सकता है? Tendency to lose H plus, right? So out of these, which has the highest tendency to lose H plus? Okay, we can treat oxo acids. Okay, in case of HClO4, I know that the more number of oxygen, more is the acidic strength. But here the number of oxygen atoms are same, right? So what should be the basis? The strength of the bond would be the basis. I know that chlorine. This would be the structure, or this would be the structure. First one would be the structure. That means anything which can easily give away the proton. That means that for that the bonding of the ClO or IO should be stronger as compared to OH bond, right? I know the medium atom, middle atom is same for the both the acids. If I talk about this, oxygen atom is same. Which is more electronegative? Chlorine. But which is more bigger in size? Iodine. So hence compared to this, so despite the electronegativity difference, the size of iodine is overweighing the electronegativity difference. See, there are various parameters on which you will decide the acidity, but you have to look for the fact, which fact overweighs which fact. O and I, not O and I. Iodine, oxygen, they both are very electronegative, obviously. This bond is obviously this bond is covalent, right? But what is the basis? What should be the basis for losing the hydrogen for proton? That the bond should be weak. Why I am saying that hydrogen iodide is weaker, is strong acid as compared to hydrogen bromide, then hydrogen chloride, then hydrogen fluoride? Due to large size. This is similar the case for these oxo acids. I'll give you a more valid justification in the next class. A more crisp justification, I would say. Right? So let's finish off this class. Okay. Thank you. इसके